Well, I probably should have titled this differently. The title that really comes to my mind is Learning to Speak the Second Heart Language of Today's Peoples. Because media and mobiles really have become the second heart language, right? This is what we see around the world today. Back in 2006, I was still living in Uzbekistan and had a young woman come to faith. And when that happened, shortly after that had happened, she had already had an arranged marriage, and when that marriage took place, we lost all contact with her. And it was such a shame because we were in a very, very unreached part of the country, and a country itself that was very, very unreached with the gospel. And here was a woman very excited to have discovered a relationship with Jesus, and now we have no contact with her. And around that same time, I began noticing that device that we all notice everywhere we go now, people carrying around their mobile phones. A couple years later, I found myself, 2008, standing in line in Heathrow for an hour and a half with a very long delay getting through passport control. And as I just scanned the line of people, we all do this now, right? Everyone was doing the same thing. Everyone had some kind of mobile device in their hand, whether it was a mobile phone or a tablet or a Kindle, reading, passing the hours, waiting to get through that queue. This is the second heart language of people today, whether you're young or old or rich or poor. We've all seen this taking place in the various countries that we're living and serving. We're very familiar with the mobile revolution now that's been well underway. Arab Spring, of course, is what this photo is from. And this is duplicated on the news and in magazines and everywhere we look now. It's just, we can't escape this any longer. This is the picture. Keith had this up earlier. He kind of stole my thunder with the picture if you hadn't seen this. But this is the exact quotation. And I think this really gets to the heart of why we need to be here together for these couple of days. Asked after her family, what was the one thing that she could not leave behind as ISIS advanced on her home? This refugee from Karakash said her mobile phone. And I thought it was interesting that it's not just her mobile phone, but she's holding up her Samsung Android phone. Another woman that I had contact with from a distance, actually through a friend of a friend, a very poor woman, even for her neighborhood, which was a very poor neighborhood in India. Her husband had died recently. She was left now not only to care for her two young boys, but to be the primary breadwinner for the family. And she had a basic phone, did voice and text, but her goal was to get a new phone, right? Everywhere we go around the world, everybody has that same goal. It's really amazing. They're saving for that new phone. And how on making dollars a month and trying to provide for two boys, I don't know, but she did after many months saved and bought a new used phone, but one that had a color screen and could play media. And a friend of hers one day slipped a micro SD card into her phone without her friend seeing, replaced all of her Bollywood videos with a micro SD card that had the Jesus film in it. And a week later, she saw her friend again and finally said, kind of sheepishly, not sure what her friend would have thought when she discovered that all of her Bollywood videos were gone. That's why she wanted the phone in the first place. And said, so did you watch any of the videos that were on that phone, that were on your phone? And she got very quiet. And for the next 3 hours, had a long discussion. This Muslim woman, widow, mother, and this woman had an opportunity to explain all these stories. Are these videos, do they really tell us who this Jesus really is? Are these true stories? Yes, they are. And that woman, not only did she decide to begin walking with Jesus, she prays daily now for her neighbors to come to know the Lord as well, and is sharing those stories that she has. So this is the world that we're living in. It's amazing. It's exciting. Francis Schaeffer said this many, many years ago. Each generation of the church and each setting has the responsibility of communicating the gospel in understandable terms, considering the language and thought forms of that setting. So that's a bit of a mouthful. I'll let you process that for a moment. But as I think about what that says, and I consider what is the language and what are the thought forms of the settings that we find ourselves in, I can't help but think mobile and think media. And so that's our motivation. If we want to communicate the gospel, we want to do it in the forms that are relevant to the people around us today. So how can we use our mobiles? How can we, as I said earlier when I mentioned the description, how can we eat our own dog food? It's easy to talk about mobile, and it's easy to talk strategy, but how can we get practical, and how can we begin to use our mobiles? And how can we encourage those on our teams, those on our fields that are out there spending time with people? How can we begin to use these in very practical ways so that we can draw people in? Well, first and foremost is to remember, and Ed, you're in here. I think I stole this from you, but you stole it from Becky. Fresh bread. So I lived in Uzbekistan, and this was the smell that that many years later I can still easily recollect. It just made you hungry the first thing in the morning when you smelled that hot, fresh bread coming out of the ovens. And that's what we have in Jesus. That's our fresh bread. And if we're not feasting regularly on Jesus, and if that's not what we're presenting to the world, in whatever form we're presenting it, then we really have nothing. So before we move on any further and talk about apps or technology or devices or any of those things, we need to remember this and keep the main thing the main thing. It's Jesus, and it's feasting on who He is and what He's done for us. Okay, first and foremost, I know this is going to sound basic, and for most of you it probably is, but if you haven't done it already, and many of our people haven't done this yet. I was talking to a former teammate of mine in Turkey, and he said, "Brad, you know what? I finally get it. I'm out all the time sharing with people. Just last week, I was sharing with a Muslim neighbor, and he took out his phone and he started speaking to me from the Quran. And he said I was able to begin sharing verses with him and sharing scripture with him, but it didn't carry the same weight, because what I was sharing were words, and I could say they were from the Holy Book, but it took on a whole new meaning when I was able to pull out my phone and pull up the Bible app on my phone and say, it is written in the Holy Book, and show this to his friend. There is something special about having the scriptures on our phone and just being ready. I think it's just one of those things, being ready to take advantage of every opportunity when those opportunities arise to give an account for the hope that we have. And that hope is stored in God's Word. And we need to have God's Word on our phone and know how to use it and know how to pull it up quickly. And if you're working in a part of the world where you're operating in another language or maybe multiple languages, to have those languages accessible on your phone so that you're able and ready to show and share that with those that you're with. I love Scripture App Builder now coming out. That's going to make this so much more possible for us to do. So, Richard, thank you for the good work you're doing. This is going to be fantastic. One of the things we've so desperately needed is the ability to pass along Scripture to people. Wonderful that we have apps, and wonderful that we can say, go to an app store, but for people who don't have access to the internet, or for people who are concerned about security, knowing that all of this is getting tracked, to be able to pass along scriptures phone to phone rather than phone to internet to phone is very critical. But get the scriptures on your phone. Get your people and your organizations, make sure they've got the scriptures on their phone. Very, very basic. And second, how many of you know that there is a Jesus Film app? So about maybe half, maybe a touch more. I cannot count how many discussions I've had this week with people who had no idea that the Jesus Film was now available in an app. And in that app, you get access to every version of the Jesus Film, every translation of the Jesus Film, and the Magdalena film, My Last Day, which is a very powerful 10-minute anime film, and other media that they've developed and continue to add to this library of resources. You've got all of that accessible right there on your mobile phone. And if data access is an issue, when you're on Wi-Fi, download the films to your phone locally, and then you can show them offline just as easily. And I love this. And one of the things Jesus Film has done, one of the films that they have stored in there now is a good little tutorial that says, this is how you can begin to use this. And I was sharing this about a month ago. I had a woman come up to me the next day and said, this was so helpful. I went to this Chinese restaurant last night, and I began to talk to this woman because you told me about the app, and I downloaded it. And so I had that on my phone when I went to dinner. And so I asked this woman, I said, have you ever heard of Jesus? And she said, yes, I love to go to church, but I don't understand anything. And she said, well, would you like to learn about Jesus in your own language? And she was able to just pull out her phone and within about a minute have the Jesus film up in her, I'm not sure what language she was speaking, but had it up on her phone running, and the woman immediately said, can I have a copy of this, please? That's the capability we have. So be ready. All of this is about being ready to take advantage of every opportunity that we have. And get other videos. We've just come out of 4 days together, some of us having been to 4 previous days to that on the production side of things, but talking a lot about media. And there is more and more and more great media out there that we have to share. These are 2 more Western-oriented sources of content, but still very good and work in a number of environments. Yes, he is doing a great job putting together some really neat, aggregating a variety of primarily short films, testimonials. Bono is on there from U2 giving a really interesting interview. A lot of really interesting stuff that is very suitable for drawing people in and having a conversation. These are conversation starters. And this is one of the things that media does so well, is it pulls people in. I was on an airplane not long ago, and there were 3 of us in the seat in the row. The plane was very full. I was next to the window. There was a woman in her 70s sitting in the middle seat, and then on the aisle was this young guy, maybe around 20 years old, and pretty scraggly. And he got on, and he immediately pulled out his phone, and he started watching this video, and he's kind of laughing a little bit, and he turns to this woman next to him. It just seemed like the most unlikely conversation about to happen with this very young guy on his phone and this very nicely dressed woman around 70 years old. But he said, "You got to see this," and he began to show her this funny film. I can't remember what it was. It was a little bit on the crude side, but it was kind of humorous nonetheless. And this woman, without hesitation, started watching this. And then she leaned over to me and said, "You need to see this too. It really is funny." Well, everywhere I've been around the world, every time I've stopped and asked someone, "Do you want to watch a film? You got to see this video." I've never once seen or experienced, never once have I heard of anyone experience someone saying no to watching a video. It's just one of those mediums that just draws us in. It's so effective in that way. So find out what's good. Keith is talking in the room next door about finding out more about what's appropriate in a particular context. But find out what's relevant in your context. And most of us are coming out of EMDC where we think about things like contextualization. So I hope we have the context that we need. But if not, ask around. There are people who know what's going to be effective. And let's get that onto our phones and have it ready to share. Again, being ready to take advantage of every opportunity. Fourth, use images. Somebody in Navigators put together a book, and sadly it's out of print, or they pulled it for some reason. But if you can get a copy, it's called Worth More Than 1,000 Words. The Power of Images to Heal, I believe is the name of it. But they talk about the power of images. I won't spend too much time on this, but we all are well familiar with visual imagery and how our brains are wired to process visual. I don't remember the exact statistic. It doesn't really matter how close, but in the ballpark anyway, our brains process visual images something like 1,000 times more quickly than text. But more than that even is that because our brains are so wired for visual, when we see an image, images have that power to immediately transport us to an experience right? To memories, to emotions that we may never get to in a normal conversation. There may never be a roadmap that's going to get a conversation to a particular place. And yet somebody can look at an image and immediately melt down because of what the emotions that are evoked when they see that image. So what do you think of when you see this image? What emotions does this evoke from you?
Aww.
Aww. Isn't that sweet? Okay.
Waiting when the baby will awake and play.
So maybe when the baby awakens, it'll begin to cry? Play.
The waiting.
Oh, the waiting. Okay, waiting to spend time with your son.
It also evokes memories of my own of that time, which is a very special time.
Okay, so evoking memories of your own children.
The fact that the baby is facing away, he's not looking at him in his face, shows that he's contemplating. They're not connecting eye to eye. He's thinking.
Okay. Good. Roseanne in the back, and then up here.
The fact that both of their hair is so perfect, to me, said that it was an artificially set up shot. I would like to see more.
Yes, it looks kind of like an artificial shot. I agree. So this was probably not the best image to pick, but nonetheless, I think it'll probably speak to some of us. Yes, go ahead. The heart of a father. Yeah. So for some of us, we might look at that. It might be a painful memory if we did not have a positive experience with our fathers. For some of us, more of us, I hope it's a very positive memory of times with our own fathers. But images do give us that opportunity to very quickly sit down and begin to talk, and just say, what do you think of when you see this image? What does it make you think about? And of course, we need to be careful working in different cultural contexts that we're using appropriate images. But they do have that ability to stimulate conversations and stimulate emotions that I believe the Holy Spirit can begin to use to draw people into conversation and to begin to explore. Is this somebody in whom the Father might be working? Yes.
Clyde came by and asked if I could tell you where to get the Worth More Than 1,000.
Please tell us.
Yes, the author has it on his personal website, and it's ralphennis.com. So Ralph, as you'd expect it, RALPH, and then ENNIS. And
okay.
He's been a leader in use of visual media. There's a whole series of tools.
Yes. So ralphennis.com, RALPHENNIS.com. So this is the book Worth More Than 1,000 Words. Grab this book if you can. I've tried finding it, and so I'm so glad that it's available there. It is a really powerful book, and it includes some exercises that you can do yourself, begin to adapt to use images. And what I love about this, very simple. If you've got a basic feature phone, almost every phone in the world now has a screen that is capable of displaying an image. Okay, this is very low-end opportunity here to just have a collection of images and to be able to strike up conversations with people and use that as a bridge into spiritual conversations. Okay, sharing the gospel with apps. There are more and more and more apps available, and I know there are probably some of you in here that are working on apps. I know Golden Ripe is here, working on an apologetic type app, and lots of great stuff happening. Gemstone is working. This is C2C. C2C Story, I think, is the official name of the app. It's a Creation to Christ app, and I love this. It's very simple. It allows you to just swipe through the story, the Creation to Christ story, and it's designed in such a way that you can very conversationally present the story to people. But if you need a little bit of assistance, it's got the text in there as well. Or if a seeker finds this, it's something that they could actually work their way through themselves if they were motivated to do that. but you do have that text in there as well, and it's got audio, which I think is absolutely critical. So it will present that story, each story of each image, it'll present in an oral fashion as well. Yes?
Are those apps for Android only or also for other platforms?
This one is Android, but it's both?
It's both.
It's both. Yeah.
And what remains both? Windows?
It's not on Windows yet, but here's the deal. If you don't have Android or iOS, something simple like this I like because you can take those same images at least, and you can put the images in a little file on your phone, a little folder on your phone, and do the very same thing and kind of swipe through those. And there's also a web app. If you've got online access, you can swipe through the web version of this as well. And you could do that on a Windows phone or a BlackBerry if boy, I hope none of us are still using it. Well, they're great devices, but anyway, you get the idea.
I was just going to say, it is available as a web app, and it is also packaged so that you can download the images to another device and scroll through them manually that way.
Okay. Great. And I'm going to step out on a limb here because I've been in discussions with Courtney. And one of the things that I'm hoping that we can see happen too is to make the content in here user replaceable, so that you can put a different story set in there with a different script and a different collection of audio that would allow the app to be used to tell a different story or to tell a subset of stories that might be more applicable, or use images that you think would be more relevant to your particular audience. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's a possibility as well. So keep your eye on this app is called C2C Story. Does anyone, by the way, have another app that they've used that they've found particularly helpful?
Yes, we've actually just released one called The Parting Gift, and it's got interactive questions, but it's quite an amazing piece of cinematography and new videographers.
Okay, it's called The Parting Gift.
You will find it's quite out of the box.
Okay, so it's video-based, and this is for what platforms?
It's iOS and Android. I have a video down.
Okay, iOS and Android, so you can get it here.
To see it, because on the website there's no preview, and then when you direct it to an app, it's 147 megabyte.
Yes, the reason it's big is because of the video.
I thought you couldn't have an app on the Play Store bigger than 50 meg.
No, you can if it's actually bundled as two packaging systems. So they've probably done that.
Okay. Well, see him if you want to check out that app. Yes.
I just discovered before I came, Faith Comes by Hearing, about a children's Bible called Kids Bible, which it's only on iOS, but it seemed to be very well put together. It has a lot of games and things that attracts the children. One of the comments that I read was the father said that my son insisted on going through the story 3 times until he found all the crosses. And then later on I asked him about the story, and he told me the entire story, which was amazing. And then I know that YouVersion is also, I'm not sure if they partnered but there's a kids Bible there. So if you're trying to reach children, there's some excellent resources for that.
Great. And the first app was by Faith Comes by Hearing?
Yeah, it's one that's fairly new. It's only been out for about 6 months.
Okay.
It's Kids, K-I-D-Z Bible, and unfortunately, it's only available on iOS right now.
Okay. Good. Yes.
In addition to the C2C Story app, EDOT has recently released what we call a concordance of the Bible, but in Turkish, because our experience has been through talking with people in Turkey, they don't sit down and read the Bible sequentially. They don't start at the beginning of the Gospels and read the whole way from Matthew through John. They read it topically. At least they do their holy book. And so the purpose of this Fiercely app has been to topically index the scriptures. And what we found is as people start using it, they are looking at the topics and going to see now, instead of what the Holy Book of Islam says, they're finding what the Bible says. I can remember only 4 of the top 5 topics that they're looking at. Number 1 is God. What does the Bible say about God? The second is God's gifts. What does he give to us as humans? Can't remember what 3 is, but 4 is pornography. What does the Bible say about pornography? And number 5 is adultery. So people are using this app already. We haven't really promoted it, but it's being used in a way that people who would not normally read sequentially through the scriptures can see it topically. Okay, the third item was family. Question?
How to access the app?
If you go to the App Store and you search for Greater Europe Mission, it will come up.
Is it just on iOS now? No.
It's on both.
It's the C2C app. Yeah.
No, there is the C2C app, but this is Fiercety. But if you search for Fiercety, it's going to bring up a whole bunch of Islamic apps. That's why if you search for Greater Europe Mission, it'll come up.
Okay, great. Yeah, one more. Go ahead.
This is actually an older app, but it's now been adapted in more languages. Campus Crusade and Crew team have actually just released God Tools, and it's in my little copy, it's got Knowing God Personally in 10 languages and 4 Spiritual Laws in 16 languages, and Satisfied in English and French, which is sort of like a nurturing for Christians. And then everystudent.com website, which actually has tons of questions and life stories and answers, and there's a full English version of that. So it's all packaged in one app. So if you look for God Tools, it's a very useful tool. Thank you.
Okay, great. We probably have time for one more. Go ahead.
We have one from a presenter.
Oh,
or
good.
Online participant.
Frank from Uganda is asking Brian just about the issues of sharing the gospel via mobile, wondering if the designers of apps are bearing in mind that not all people have the tech know-how to get the media in apps, and also do they consider the internet connection's bandwidth issues? Also, wondering if you know if there's going to be any strategies for extending training to people in Africa.
Okay, Frank, it's good to hear from you. Thank you for joining us from Africa. It's probably I'm not sure if we have time to totally address all of those questions now, but certainly worth noting. We're talking primarily here, and as people have shared about apps too, we've all heard about iOS and Android apps, and we don't want to forget those that are still not there. The majority of the world is not on a smartphone yet, although it is coming rapidly. It's coming faster even than Tommy Ahonen and others have predicted. And so it is coming. I just bought a brand new Windows phone not long ago for about $35 in the US. I mean, fully featured, not the latest and greatest hardware, but a great phone, $35. Okay, so this is coming, but we're still in an age where a lot of people are on older Nokias and other types of phones. So as we're thinking about strategies, we do need to be thinking about other platforms. There are things like sharing photos, sharing images that are very easy to do on those feature phones. And there are some people, might be a handful of people that are developing apps for those markets. But definitely if you're an app developer, be looking at what type of platforms your intended audience is using.
I've actually found a very valuable resource site. I'm sorry, I can't find the domain name right now, but it's in my links. It allows you to install this little app on your phone, and a lot of people then leave it on their phone, and it tracks the upload, download speeds, and dropout rates of all the networks across the world. So it's an extremely useful tool for analysing what performance you'll get in each area and how viable it is to use mobile in specific regions. I'll try and find it before end of conference. Secondly, I've also looked at feature phone social networks. So there's actually some social networks specifically designed for feature phones, and they actually have software development kits that you can build for, and they're actually very easy to do. You only have to build very lightweight web interfaces, and there are a number of there's a couple of groups that are doing this. There's they have millions of followers. So we're talking about 30 million people at least on one network in Africa and also in Indonesia. So there's a wonderful opportunity there. You don't need a lot of skills to get into that. Okay.
Great. And one other encouragement too, if you are an app developer, try to make sure that you're developing apps that can be, if possible, especially if it's for locals to use, things that can be transferred phone to phone. Being able to pass along an APK file. That's a big deal in a lot of parts of the world that we're working. People either don't have that access to the internet or they don't want to download certain content. David. Yes.
I have a utility called File Selector. You can find it in the Play Store that does a very good job of listing every app. Although the way they're sorted by name doesn't make it easy, but it lists every single app on your phone and then Bluetooth from there.
Yeah. So it is possible, but it's easier if developers think with that in mind and they make those files accessible somewhere so that people can download them and then easily transfer them. Okay, let's push on so we can finish up. Call an audible. Sorry, this is an American football term, but who knows what that means? Okay, what is an audible?
It's where the quarterback, instead of going with the plan that came from the coach, he looks on the ground and makes his own decision on what the play is going to be.
That's right. So the quarterback can change the play at the last minute and tell his team. That doesn't really have much to do with what I'm going to say here, but that's your little introduction to American football. But an audible, we all, again, we're here just following on the heels of EMDC. We know the importance of orality and of putting things in audible formats. And twice in the last month or so, I've heard stories that have gone something like this. I'm working with a group of guys. They're faithfully meeting together. They're fully literate. They're able to read the text that we're sharing with them just fine. We read through them together when we sit down, but something just isn't happening. They just don't really seem to be getting into this for some reason. And then we started recording the text that we're studying, recording them in audio, and then Bluetoothing those little audio files to their phones. And all of a sudden, they're like different people. Especially those of us who are Westerners, it's really hard for us to begin to think from that oral frame set, that oral mindset. We just don't get it because we haven't grown up with it. And yet, even most of us, in many ways, are oral in our learning preference. But we can't minimize that for others. Having stories, having the scriptures, having other content that is ready to share in oral format is really powerful. These are a few apps that are very helpful. The first one, anybody know what the first one is? Five Fish. This is Global Recordings Network's library of I don't know how many thousands of languages are up there. Far more languages than we have scriptures for. They are doing they're recording Bible stories. They're not word for word translations. They're stories, and it's fantastic. They've got a great library of content up there. And great, you have full access to everything they have through their app. It's available for Android and for iOS. And if you don't have one of those devices, if you have access to the web, if you have a Windows phone or another platform, their site is mobile friendly. Fivefish.mobi, I believe is what it is, .mobi. And you can get access to the same resources that way. And download those. Again, if you're working among a particular language group, have those files ready to share with people. Bible transmission, is Nancy in here? She may be in the other room. Nancy Keel and her family, they've been working very hard trying to put together a database of every known available audio scripture site. And so this, as far as I know, is probably the definitive guide to what's available in audio in terms of scriptures, BibleTransmission.org. And then, of course, Bible.is, we're all pretty familiar with. Faith Comes by Hearing's app has lots of great resources as well. Okay, micro SD cards. How many iPhone users in here? Pretty good number, yeah. If we were speaking in the United States right now, probably a few more hands would have shot up as well. But The reality is somewhere around 86% of the world's population are using Android, at least among smartphone users, about 86% Android. So the world is primarily on Android. The nice thing about that, and Windows as well, and BlackBerry, and all of those literally billions with a B of feature phones out there have a slot for a micro SD card. Hands down, one of the greatest ways for us to be able to share gospel content is having stuff available to share on micro SD cards. We've got a great resource, the Your Phone God's Glory kind of story-based curriculum that the Mobile Ministry Forum has just released. That has some tutorials that step you through how to, some beginning ways that you can make use of them. Yes? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead and share that again briefly,
okay.
please.
So micro SDs can be locked. There's a duplicator out of Taiwan, and anybody that wants to know it, I'll be glad to send contact information of how to do that. It's not cheap, but it'll copy, check, lock the chip for you. Permanent lock or temporary lock where you could change it if you like. Permanent lock still is, or I mean, temporary lock is still really good for, the average person can't unlock it, only the duplicator can. There's also single chip lockers that have been developed. So you just put it in, it locks it like within 3 seconds. That being said, if you use a locked chip for an Android phone, a lot of times an Android phone will reject it because it's trying to write its files to that chip, and it can't because it's locked or made read-only. So the workaround that we have found is that you put the Android files that are trying to be written on there in a hidden folder, and so when the Android phone goes to try to write to it, it sees it's already there and says, oh, this is okay, and then the chip can be accessed.
Great. Yeah, and if you have short-term teams coming out, get them equipped with micro SD cards. Buy a lot of micro SD cards. You can get them for as cheap as $3 or $4, maybe even less than that. Have those teams ready to go with that media to hand out to people. If you know what Altoids are, Altoids mints, those little tin cans, great. Put 200 or 300 micro SD cards in there. Fabulous, perfect storage, and you're going to have the best-selling micro SD cards in the world as well. Great way to carry those. Yes.
Can I ask a question on that? When you go through customs,
Hold on.
When you go through customs with that Altoid chip and they scan your bag, is customs able to see those 300 cards, or are those disguised by the metal?
I don't know the definitive answer to that. I do know that I've never been stopped with them or heard of anyone else getting stopped with them. But, you know, definitely if you can, split them up among as many people as you can, or scatter them through your luggage or something like that. But yeah, certainly think through those things. And if you're a team based in the West, sending people out to other parts of the world, think about that and ask about that.
So yes, if you're leaving, most countries don't scan your personal stuff when you're coming in. So I tried this in the U.S. with just one to see if the body scanners would pick it up. They do. I had it in a zipper pocket. He was not able to find it. Okay, so know that the body scanners will pick it up. Now that's if you're doing that. So you go through security, you're leaving a country, it will show up. When you're entering into a country, because we've had bags scanned and they do come up and they do take them, Micros are really great because you can put 5,000 in 2 coat jackets without any problem. So you walk in, they scan your bags or your backpack. They usually don't have you take off your coat or any personal things like that, and you just come on in. So,
yeah, so very flexible. And one quick note, if you're sharing with people that are going to probably be on a feature phone, I tend to recommend a 2 gigabyte or a 4 gigabyte card. The older phones, they can't read higher capacity cards, or they may not be able to, so you can still fit an awful lot on a 2 or 4 gigabyte card. So shoot for that lower end. Remember, think about your audience and what kind of equipment they might be using. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to wrap up here. But get social. Get social. I talk to so many people. I work with Frontiers, and we are, as many of you know, and probably as many of you are, tend to be pretty concerned about security. And yet, we live in a day and age when this is where people are connecting. In December, there was a fascinating article that came out. A young woman in Saudi Arabia, a young Muslim woman, had a very sincere question. Is it okay for me to ever show my face in a social media post? It was an honest question, and she wanted to know, what is the right thing for me to do? And she's wrestling with social media, but she wants to be faithful in her faith. And so she posed this question. Of course, she went to the one place she knew to ask this, and that was Twitter. And it began a firestorm of conversation that took place within minutes. The former head of religious police for Saudi Arabia actually chimed in and said, it's not obligatory for you to cover your face. That just escalated the conversation all the more, as you can imagine. But this is where people are going to ask questions about things of faith. When the Innocence of Islam movie came out and created the riots in Egypt and perhaps in some other places as well, I was with a couple of brothers from, actually about 5 of them from Egypt, about 12 hours after all of this began to unfold. And I said, are you guys seeing people talking about this? And they said, yes. They're all on Twitter and they're all on Facebook and they're asking questions. Is this really what Islam teaches? Is this what the Quran says? And the place they're going to ask the questions is Facebook and Twitter. And I said, well, are you seeing people coming to faith? And they said, absolutely. We're actually right there on Facebook. People are saying, I want to know, where can I get the Gospels? Where can I read the Injil? Tell me about Jesus. I want to follow Jesus. And so this is where it's happening. I work in the Muslim world. Some of the greatest users of social media are the leading countries among social media users worldwide are in the Muslim world. But look at where people are. What are they using? Do a little bit of research. There's some great sites you can go to. Socialbakers.com. It covers the major social media networks, and it shows you what's trending and what the usage numbers are for all of the countries of the world. Socialbakers.com. There's another site, App Annie, AppAnnie, appannie.com, and that looks at the most popular apps for every country in the world. You can go and quickly see what apps are people downloading, what are they using. Better yet, go out in the street and talk to people. Do a little bit of research, have some fun, talk to people. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to have conversations with people, and in the process say, oh, by the way, have you seen this video that I've got? But just ask them, what are you using? What do people like to use here? But get social. And when you get onto social media, be conspicuously and authentically spiritual, as David Watson was talking about. Let people know that you are people of prayer, that you're a person of prayer, that you're a person of faith, that you have a relationship with God, that you hear God, that you struggle with things, but at the same time you see God answering prayer. Let people see that. If they don't see that, they're not going to know to go to you. Okay, let your faith be lived out, but do it authentically. Be real. Okay, let's not put on that perfect Christian face that says, my life is perfect now because I have Jesus. Let's be real. Okay, I think I'm out of time, so I'm going to click real quickly. Nancy's not in here. Nancy said I could do this. Okay, a lot of us look at social media, we look at mobile phones and doing some of these types of these things. We think immediately, well, you know what? That's great. I'm gonna let the 20-somethings do that, or maybe the 30-somethings do that. We might even say let the 40-somethings do that. I'm not sure, but you know what? This is just learning to speak another language. How many of us have gone to the field? We never question learning the language of the people we're going to. We can learn the language of media and the language of mobiles. Nancy Keel, she didn't grow up with technology. She grew up on a farm in rural Virginia. She used email occasionally, and yet when her husband passed away a few years ago, she said, I want to carry on his legacy, and he believed that this was a key way of sharing the gospel. And as she began to look around, she said, if I want to be effective now, I need to learn how to use my mobile phone to share Christ. And so with almost no background, no understanding of technology whatsoever, no interest in technology, she taught herself how to do this. Nancy goes to places like Kenya now and India, and she's Bluetoothing small video clips to people. And she's taking micro SD cards out of people's feature phones and putting them into her own phone and copying the Jesus film on there for them. Okay, so this is my challenge to you. If Nancy's doing this, she's a very capable woman, admittedly, but if Nancy's doing this, every one of us in the room can do it as well. And so my challenge is, eat our own dog food. Okay? Don't just talk to other people about doing this. Let's start doing this ourselves. Okay, and finally, I know we're going to break for lunch, but I don't want to break before at least asking this question. What is God calling you to do in response to what we've heard today? And I was hoping we'd have a few more minutes to reflect on that. But don't just walk out of here thinking, okay, that was kind of interesting. I think there's probably something that came up today in these 45 minutes that you're not doing but might be able to do. Something that you could do to be a little bit more prepared at least to be able to pull out your mobile phone and use it in some way to share the hope that you have. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward right here. Here's a few more resources. I'm gonna leave this up as we break. Just some ways to go deeper. If you have questions, of course, we'll be around. I'll be around. We've got lunch ahead of us. And is lunch at 12? It's at 12, so we're ready to break. Okay. Thank you for being patient. Sorry for going 3 minutes and 2 seconds over. But we're finished. You're free to go. If you have questions, I'll stick around and answer them right now briefly before I head over to lunch. Thank you.